What is going on, guys? Welcome back. Commentary for you. And what an end to the live stream. I can imagine that some people are going to be a little bit taken back with how I speak about this. But in watching it, it's evident a lot of things are unraveling. First of all, Salah exposes that Chantal doesn't clean herself very well. If we go back to when they went to Chuck Cheese, he is mocking her a lot. And she should be embarrassed because essentially he's talking about how dirty she is. He cites that he knows when she hasn't taken her pills, and she wants to kind of blame everything on, well, I'm already in my established ceiling position, and that a lot of times she's simply hiding in the bedroom. When I say that people might not agree with my take on this, having watched Chantal for a very long time, not since her ex have we seen someone out her like this, face to face. Now, as it happens, Chantal tries to laugh it off, but it's pretty clear that she isn't taking this as a joke, and it really just comes off as awkward. This actually carries over to him talking about her just throwing her dirty clothes, calling her lazy, not doing simple things, and her instant reaction to this is joke that it's time for a Canada Bees. And I'll talk about that at the end. But it's odd that she essentially says in response to all of this, I basically want to get away from you. And she offers that she's going to start talking about things he does that anger her. And we all know essentially what she could say is the situation with Kybella. The fact that she doesn't and restrains herself is very telling. She acts as if her only retaliation to all this, though, is to, quote, spill more tea. He ends up blocking people in the chat. She doesn't seem to appreciate this. Much of the chat is kind of going back to how Chantal used to act and how maybe he's seeing that now for the first time, or maybe he's just talking about it for the first time. There is also a point where she brings up, since he has sat there and ridiculed her, that she needs to get him a cheeseburger, and that the cheeseburger apparently would make all of this right. He refuses to do this, but it goes back to, and she's talked about this before, everything revolves around food. Food would be the peace offering for all of this taking place. And it seems like, as time has went on, she isn't keeping up her facade. Right? Going out in the heat has become more of a struggle. I think he's realizing that she's not going to be traveling. She's becoming less and less mobile. I can't help but think, though, this is exactly, as I said, how her and her ex were. I mean, he was actually talking down to her the same way that he would. And she would, as she did with him, get very uncomfortable, try to laugh it off. But if you've watched Chantal long enough, and I spoke about this yesterday, she's not a very good actress. We can see that it really bothers her. There's even a portion of this where Salah talks about things Chantal does as intentional to anger him. And her response to this is her asking if he's grumpy, tells her to stop embarrassing her. He responds by shushing her and putting his hand over her mouth. And I understand if you haven't watched this, you might not know the context of it. And as I said, as this all played out, they were trying to be very joking about it, but it's still what happened. They get into this long, drawn-out discussion about the water bottles that she refuses to throw away. She says that she doesn't throw them away because, again, she's been sealing already. And he wants to know why there's water in the bottom of all the bottles. And if you remember, she offered to him to drink out of one. And then she said, well, you need to smell it first. And he joked that it stunk. And she goes on and says, well, that's the backwash. And that's why she won't throw it away. And Salah says, I don't know how that's possible. How do you know the bottom of every bottle is essentially just spit? He kind of refuses to say that it's true. She says, well, spit is heavier than water. And Salah, to his point and credit, says, we don't throw water away here. And if you recall, this is a country that does not throw away water. Everything has to be bottled. I think all in all, little by little, we are starting to see lies in this I'm just a housewife mindset that she comes online with. We even got her classic, I can't change overnight, to which he instantly responded, I've told you about this for over a year. She can only say to this that Arab husbands are hard to deal with. And she goes on to say that she doesn't like being outed by her, quote, supposed love. And that if she did this to him, he wouldn't like it. But again, if we go back to Karma and the Kia, she very much did do this to him. She spoke very disparagingly about him. She outed a lot of his private issues. Towards the end of this stream, they are honestly telling each other to just shut up. We get Chantal with this, I can do what I want. You're not my dad. And you can tell that they just have zero respect for each other. They insult each other. And you also feel like she is kind of holding things over his head. They can mask this with humor, but the frustration is very real. And I just want to close with two talking points. Number one, we had a YouTube payday. And we have constantly been talking about how those checks are getting lower and lower. And while, yes, the live streams, the super chats, the 24-hour streams, those might have temporarily spiked. Ultimately, I think Salah probably realizes that's just that, temporary. And he's had to be more involved in the content than really ever before to get to this point outside of the couples channel. So it's likely he realizes, hey, I have to spend more and more time with this person, and the more time I spend, the more frustrated I get, and perhaps some of that is starting to kind of creep out. You also have to understand, and even as she said, Canada bees, to which he said, go ahead and bees, essentially telling her, then go ahead and leave. I know a lot of people will go back and forth on whether Salah is there to get to Canada or get somewhere else or whatever the case may be. Okay, the facts are right now, from what we know, Canada's not happening for him. And it's more than likely that, as I said before, traveling is out of the equation. So we're not even having to project that this isn't a real marriage, right? This very well could be two people that are married together, whether it's a marriage of convenience or not. But the things that they once did, like go out and travel, they're no longer doing. Salah has not traveled, from what we understand, outside of maybe tagging along on a visa run for almost 2 years. She seems to make every outing they have more and more miserable. Whether it's chuck cheese, whether it's going out and feeding random things to camels in the desert, which, if those were my camels, I don't really know that I want people pulling up in their truck and just feeding them random carrots. And they had an argument during that as well, where apparently Salah got bit, which tells me that this couple gets bit by animals more than anyone I've ever seen. But you can just tell that her inability to prepare for things, her inability to want to do things the right way the first time, is starting to wear thin on him. If you would have told me, ultimately, before this stream, that we would get to a point where Salah would not only shush Chantal, but cover her mouth with his hand and throw water at her, I would tell you there's no way that that happened. I'm going to leave you with the top comments from the last video. You know I appreciate each and every one of you. And when I still have like 4 hours of this and the stream she did afterwards to cover, there's no way that I cannot be back as soon as I can with more commentary.